Shalom, friends of Israel. Thank you again for joining us on today's emergency update call. From despair to determination, I, like many of you, have been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and solidarity from our wider community. In Israel's battered South, Jewish National Fund USA supported volunteers are going through cities such as Ashkelon, Ofakim, and Sderot, from bomb shelter to bomb shelter, house to house, to check up on residents, to see if they need evacuation, medications, food, or anything else, and helping them as needed. And with the terror starting to rear its ugly head in Israel's north, our work may quickly double. Whatever happens, we are ready. And you can support our critical relief efforts at jnf.org/support Israel. Every dollar raised in this special campaign will go to disaster relief. On today's call, we will receive an update from Yedidya Harush in Halutza, an Israeli town bordering Gaza, made up of families that left Gaza when Israel withdrew almost 20 years ago. We will then hear from Aharoni, senior faculty, School of Management, Tel Aviv University. Our call will then conclude with remarks from Jewish National Fund USA with either Rick or Russell. This is a very fluid issue that we're dealing with, people having ability to participate. Can we please mute everyone else?
Okay, that's Yedidya, actually. He's going to be speaking in a moment.
It's now, let's start to get to our special guests. It's now my honor to call on my dear friend Yedidya Harush, to whom I am especially grateful for making time to join us, given the unspeakable events that have directly affected his community and family. Over to you, Yedidya.
Shalom, my friends. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I don't know what words I have during this time, and I didn't know until this moment what I was going to say, but I've decided to share with you a few words that are on my heart. On October 7th, 2023, another chapter was written on the Jewish history. I decided to start with that quote because I have to make sure that we all remember that we are part of the history. We're part of the Jewish people. And I was born and raised in Gaza. And in 2005, when I was kicked out of my home, we had to leave. It was a very painful moment. And symbolically, we are evacuated as a community to Kfar Etzion, a village which in 1948 fought a very, very heroic battle. And with that, I want to go back to Shabbat. And on Shabbat at 6:30 in the morning, we woke up to red alerts and rockets, 30 rockets that are falling directly on our communities, on homes in the communities. Thank God no one was hurt because everyone was in the shelter because God was protecting us. At 6:45, one of the members of our first response team gets a phone call from a member of the community of Pri Gan, which is a community about 5 minutes away. And he says, Boaz, we have terrorists outside my home, about 7 terrorists. I'm locked in my bomb shelter with my 7 girls. Can you come? Please, we're being murdered. And with no second thought, he calls up the first response team and they get on the car, about 5 guys, and they run with the cars and they drive. On the way, they call the head of the security who says he's in Eilat. And when they get to the community, they see one person, 60-year-old with a pistol, and that's about it. The terrorists were already breaking into the community and took place at the end of the street where the guys came in. The guys started backfiring with them and shooting back, throwing hand grenades on our guys, shooting. Unfortunately, 2 of my best friends were shot protecting the community of Prigan. 4 of my best friends, which some of them you know, were injured, badly injured, on an 1.5-hour battle, while dozens of hand grenades, anti-tank missiles, RPGs, side bombs were thrown towards them, and heroically fighting to stop and let the terrorists run away. Thank God, after an 1.5 hours, the terrorists realized that they are facing lions, because they don't know to face lions. They know how to face babies and women, and they turn away and run away. And with this heroic battle, they saved hundreds of people, and were the only community in Prigan, the only community of the Gaza envelope that weren't injured or killed was this one community. While I was standing outside my home, flying the drone that I got from you guys with the Zoom, letting everyone know about the terrorists that are coming in, and protecting with the rest of our first response team, I see my next door neighbor, Oriel, who was an officer in the paratroopers unit, getting into his car. And he says, Yedidya, I have to go. They're calling me up. He said, God bless you, God protect you, and he leaves. And he's on the phone with one of the guys while he's driving on the main highway, which you all drove on so many times. And he says, I see many, many terrorists in front of me, many motorcycles. And then he says, I got shot in the neck. I'm stopping to take care of myself and to fight. And the call was dropped on that moment. At the very same time, my best friend, Pecho, was driving from the community of Shuva and was driving towards the guys to help them. We told him it's a half-hour drive. We told him, don't come, it's dangerous. He said, I can't hear you fight and not be there. Unfortunately, he was shot while he was driving. In one moment, we had 4 widows and 15 orphans in the community, our little community of Shlomit. But I started with something that is very important. I started with the chapter that was written on the history and still being written. Do not forget, we are Am Israel. We have been through Holocausts. We have been through pogroms. We have been through wars, and we are going to win. And we're going to win because of one secret, not because we have weapons, not because we have the intelligence, and not because we have the airplanes. They're all great, they're all important. We are going to win because of our unity, because I'm standing and speaking to people who are my brothers, who are my sisters, who live 6, 7, and 8,000 miles away, who have not slept in days because they're worried about me and my family and my daughters and my friends that I'll never see. In about 2 hours, we're going to bury the last 2 friends on Herzl Mount. 2 friends who are living next door, door to door. All the 4 holy were connected. This is the war of unity. God wants us united. And this is exactly what we're doing here. We're being united. and we're answering God that we're united. We are not going to lose this because we have you. Jewish National Fund, you have been our brothers. You have been our heroes that have been helping us from day one. I decided to get on the call today because I decided that it's not fair that I don't answer to the hundreds of people who messaged me. I just couldn't answer because I'm taking care of my community. As you can see, I'm carrying a gun because I have to protect my community. I am called up, but right now my officer told me they need you there more. And my heart is torn. On one hand, I have soldiers going to Gaza, and I have my community to take care of. And I have you, each and every one of you, who should see my face, who should hear me, who should know that we are going to win because we are united. I decided to invite someone to the Zoom who's very special to me. And I decided to call him up to say just hello, because he's my new hero and he's your hero. His name is Oz Sasson Kalo. And
Oz.
And I want to call him up for 1 second to say hello before we conclude. Shalom. This is Oz. Oz is my brother. Oz was shot while fighting in Prigan. Oz is alive and is out of the hospital. But we are Am Israel and we are strong. We're going to win this. והאחים שלנו מ-JNF, יש פה 2,000 איש אחים שלנו.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are strong.
And we're Am Israel. ועם ישראל
Hi.
חי. עם ישראל חי. And we're going to return to Shlomit, and we're going to return to Be'eri and to Kfar Aza, and we're going to rebuild our homeland, and we're going to win, because Am Israel is not going to lose. And together with you, we're going to rebuild every community and make it stronger and make it bigger, because that's the only thing we know. We don't know how to lose. We cannot afford losing. And I thank you for being there for us. Continue to donate as much as you can, not because it's for Yedidya, because it's for Am Israel, it's for us. This is our homeland. And as our brothers and sisters, I thank you. And I can't wait to be here in Israel to continue this incredible building of this nation. Am Israel Chai. Toda rabba. Toda rabba.
Yedidya, you need to know we are all crying with you. You, as you know, and your whole family, your community, are members of our family. We will never let you down. You know that.
Thank you.
So I know you have a lot to do. We might have a few questions for you. We'll limit them. If they come through, we have somebody who's monitoring the chat. There's nothing more for us to say except we are with you before Saturday, on Saturday, and forever.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Is there any questions that have come in that we want to monitor for Yedidya? Efrat, you know, if they're coming in, or Joel or Rick, has anybody seen anything that we're going to move over to the question area? Getting a lot of comments, just wishing you the best.
Paul?
Yes.
So unlike all the other days, everything that's been posted in the chat is love and Am Yisrael Chai. So any of the 1 or 2 questions we had at the start are probably more appropriate for Ambassador Aharoni. So we'll move on if the ambassador is here, and we'll wait for them.
Yedidya, we love you. You're with us. And we understand you're not returning your WhatsApps for good reason. So this is a broadcasting WhatsApp from Yedidya today. So you and your brother, please be safe, your community, your family. And we're going to move on to Ido Aharoni from Tel Aviv University.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Solom, can I just speak, or you want to?
It's your mic.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to listen to Yedidya, who also inspired me as an Israeli whose son is now in the front lines as a young reservist. Let me just say at the outset, something optimistic. I know it's a major blow, the worst blow in our existence. But when you see the result, when you see the resilience, when you see the outpouring of love, when you see the voluntarism, you know, ultimately that Israel will prevail. And just as the state of Israel could not have been established without the support of the Jewish National Fund and without the support of world Jewry, in particular American Jewry, but not only American Jewry, just as we could not have done it without you back in the first half of the 20th century, we will not be able to do it without you during the first half of the 21st century. And I don't know how much time I have, but I'd like in a few minutes to give you a little bit of context, because people may see this as a carried out operation by Hamas, as a Hamas initiative. But the truth is that you're looking at something that is much bigger. And what we just witnessed is a small piece of a much larger puzzle designed by Russia and Iran. Russia is the inspiration, Iran is the mastermind, and Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, and other organizations, which I will mention shortly, are the proxy arms of Iran executing the big plan. And what is the plan? The plan is to undermine the global position of the United States. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the United States as the world's largest economy, but the United States is not leading the world only because it has money. The United States is leading the world, what the experts refer to as the American peace, meaning the world's stability is guaranteed by the United States as the dominant power of our civilization. The reason why the United States is the dominant power of our civilization is not because of the American wealth. The wealth is a byproduct of it. It's because the United States is the country that produces the knowledge that allows civilizational progress. And this is something that the former Soviet Union, the Putin, who wants to reclaim the glory days of the Soviet Union, created an axis with Iran. Iran has committed itself to the Islamic Revolution, to the annihilation of the State of Israel, to the annihilation of your American set of values, and so on. So what you see now is part of a much larger picture. That picture includes several fronts, and this is what Iran would like to see. This is their playbook. They want to see Israel now entering the Gaza Strip ground invasion. In the next step, they'd like to see Hezbollah joining in from the north. Then Iranian-backed armed militias along the Israeli-Syrian border on the Golan Heights. Then the West Bank. Then radical groups of people that were trained and were inspired by radical Islamism within the boundaries of the State of Israel. Israeli Arabs that are ready to take action, and we've seen it before. So the longest ever military confrontation that Israel experienced was 55 days. It happened in the summer of 2014. Many of you remember that. You were on a special mission that came to visit. I remember that. That was 55 days. I suspect that what we're looking at right now is something that will last months. While we don't know what is the concrete Israeli plan, we do know several things that I'd like to share with you. Whatever it is that Israel is going to do, as you probably heard at the beginning of the call, Benny Gantz, who's the one of the leaders of the opposition parties and a former commander of the Israeli military and a very popular figure in Israel these days, has agreed to join the emergency cabinet. That doesn't mean that he's joining the coalition officially. He's joining the emergency cabinet, meaning he will be part of the consultations. He will make recommendations, and that's something that many Israelis were yearning to see. Some form of unity after a very difficult year of division that we had in Israel. And so whatever Israel is going to decide, several things you have to keep in mind. The first is, this is not just war, this is a hostage situation, unprecedented hostage situation. We have American hostages, we have German hostages, we have Argentinian hostages, very similar to the 1976 hijacking of the Air France airplane, where you had Jews and Israelis from all over the world. So that's the first thing. Second thing, whatever it is that Israel will decide, it will have to be 100% coordinated with the United States. Not only because the United States is critical, because you have to understand, if we're entering now a period of 6 months of intense fighting, Israel will need ammunition. Israel will need new weapons. Israel will need to replenish its armament depots. And who's going to help us with that? The United States. And President Biden's speech from last night, I have to tell you as an Israeli, brought tears to my eyes. The commitment is clear. He really reassured Israelis that we can count on the United States to provide us the weapons and the ammunition that we need for this very, very long fight. So that's the second thing that you need to know. The third thing that you need to know is that, and I know that many of you were very concerned with the what happened in Israel in the months before the tragedy of October 7th, but you see the spirit of the people. Don't worry about that. One thing you don't need to worry about is the Israeli spirit. All right. One thing you don't need to worry about is the Israeli spirit. You know, my 70-year-old brother, since Sunday morning, is volunteering in the Sderot area, helping the army. You know, I have friends in their 60s that rejoined the army. Everybody is pitching in. Every person is doing what they can to help. So the Israeli spirit is alive and well. But what we need is, first, we need to know what is the plan and how we proceed from here. The fact that it's a hostage situation complicates things in terms of what Israel can do militarily, because, of course, we don't want to harm the chances of seeing them back home safe and alive. So at this point, we don't know what is Israel's response. If you'd like me to during the Q&A, I'll be happy to elaborate a bit more about what are the options on the table. None of them are perfect. None of them is good, but I'm happy to do that. And again, it's an opportunity for me to thank all of you. And I know we have hundreds and hundreds of people on this call. And Saul, to thank you for your leadership and to thank you for everything that you've done. I know that you're all deeply involved and you're all very, very caring. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the end of November in Denver. I'm happy to take some questions, Saul.
You mentioned options on the table. I think everybody would like to hear that without going into the questions yet. Maybe we will have time for Q&A. But if you could outline the options that are available, I think we would appreciate that.
So one option is for Israel to declare that formally, that the goal of the operation of the war is to end the rule of Hamas in Gaza. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean? It means that Israel is going to commit all of its resources to end the rule of Hamas. That's a major undertaking. Could take years. An example of what such decisions mean in the life of a nation and in the life of a government. As you know, in 1972, during the Olympic Games, 11 Israeli athletes were murdered. Same senseless brutality, inhumanity, same hatred of Jews. They were killed only because they were Jews. There was nothing else. It was a world stage. The whole world saw this. Golda Meir made a decision that every person that had something to do with this event will be taken out. It took Israel over 2 decades to complete the mission, but the mission was completed. So if Israel's government is making that decision, it may take 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I don't know, but every person that had anything to do with what happened on October 7th, every person will be taken out. And I know it sounds ambitious, but it's possible. We have the videos, we have the information, and that's one option, that Israel will make a decision to end the rule of Hamas, and that could take years. Second option is a ground invasion. The ground invasion can have 2 purposes. The first is to destroy the relevant infrastructure, because you have to understand that while Israel thought, obviously wrongly, that it will be able to contain Hamas and allowed Qatar to supply Hamas with money, what Hamas did with the funds, rather than invest in welfare and invest in education, what they did, they built armament depots. So they have manufacturing capacity right now of weapons, rockets, hand grenades, and so on. So they produce it on site. It's not being smuggled in from anywhere. Although some of the weaponry that we found was made in Russia. So the first purpose of the ground invasion would be to destroy the relevant infrastructure. And this is after we will isolate them completely. The second would be to physically find those leaders who are still in the Gaza Strip, and again, take them out. The problem with that plan is that it will be very costly in life. Another problem is that we don't know what is waiting for us in the Gaza Strip. We know that this is the Iranian playbook. They would like us. They did what they did because they assumed that Israel's knee-jerk reaction would be a ground invasion. And therefore, they're preparing for it. They're ready for it. They're waiting for it. And we don't know what surprises they're preparing for us in Gaza, assuming that we will indeed decide to go in. So there could be 2 types of invasions. One, to conquer the Gaza Strip, which is something that most Israelis probably will be opposed to, meaning to occupy the Gaza Strip for years to come. The price in resources and life will be unbearable for the Israeli society. And the other type is, of course, a temporary invasion to achieve military operational goals and then to get out. A third option is that Israel will decide to attack targets or to deal with the country that is responsible for this whole mess, and that is, of course, Iran, and which is something that I believe the Americans are very much against. And I think that yesterday they issued a statement that there's no evidence of Iranian involvement in the attack on October 7th. And I think that the purpose of that statement was to tell the Israelis, we're not happy if you're entertaining any thoughts about attacking Iran. We don't like that. But that's another option. That's another option on the table. And it was already even discussed by some very senior Israeli commentators in Israeli media. So this is what we're looking at. The most likely scenario to happen is for Hezbollah at one point to join in and to create a double front, which will make it much more difficult for Israel to function. But we do have the manpower. We do have the 360,000 reservists. As I mentioned, my son is one of them that were called. And people like me, that we sign up for guns in our communities, and we protect our communities ourselves.
Thanks. Just a couple questions, and then we will move on. What's the status of the tunnels? Do you know? Have you heard anything regarding that?
Yeah, so some of them are still active, but as you all know, what Hamas did this time is they simply broke the physical barrier, so there was no need for tunnels. So what they did, they went to the main gateway, which is called the Erez passage, and many of you have been there and visited. And once they were able to break in, they just, thousands of Hamas people went in. Some of them armed, some of them are not even armed. I've seen videos of people just marching in, and look, when you look at the number of guns that we found on the ground, the number of the amount of ammunition, clearly their goal was to butcher thousands of Israelis. We discovered 3,000 Kalashnikov submachine guns, 3,000. When you look at the amount of ammunition they brought with them, we know that their goal was far more ambitious than what they actually achieved. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what we know now. And they changed, apparently, their operational plan once they discovered that thousands of young Israelis are going to be in the forest dancing, supporting, peace in this peace festival. And they changed the date from the 6th to the 7th. That's the report that I received, to do that and to attack that festival. And I know it's the worst day in our country's history, but we will overcome. There's no doubt in my mind.
We have one more. We have many questions, but we'll take one more. Efrat, do you want to give us one of the questions that came through?
Sure. Can you hear me, Saul?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the last questions that were asked, one to do with Egypt, why don't they open their border? And the other, can the hostages be taken to a third country?
I'll start with your second question. If the hostages can go to a second country, a third country, highly unlikely. And again, I don't want to go too much into the operational steps that Israel is already implementing on the ground, but it will be impossible. It will be impossible. I don't think they want to take them to another place. By the way, Saul, when we spoke about scenarios, one of the scenarios that people are talking about within the Israeli security establishment is the deliberate creation of a humanitarian crisis in Gaza that will force the Hamas leadership to cut a hostage deal with Israel through the mediation of the Egyptians or the Germans and so on. Regarding the Egyptians, don't want Hamas. The biggest problem in Egypt is an organization called the Islamic Brothers that we mistakenly call the Islamic Brotherhood. There's no brotherhood in this organization. It's the Islamic Brothers, which is the ideological father of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and all those other organizations. The Egyptians are not interested in allowing any kind of mobility between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, and they're quite concerned with Hamas and with their influence, just as Israel is concerned. And I'll say one last word about that. For many years, we had a tendency to look at the situation on a tactical level without kind of forgetting what Hamas is all about. And Hamas is about the annihilation of the state of Israel. They're about killing Jews. It says so in their charter. This has nothing to do with peace with the Palestinians. This has nothing to do with the age-old political conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. This has nothing to do with the Palestinians' national aspirations. Hamas is not about any of that, any of those things. They're not about better future for the Palestinians. They don't care about Palestinian nationalism. They don't care about Palestinian statehood. They want to annihilate the state of Israel. And what they did represents an opportunity for the Jewish community in North America, because they basically broke the traditional ownership of the Palestinians over the victimhood narrative. And I know that many of you care deeply about Israel's image. I know many of you are actively involved in activities to defend Israel's reputation. And you see the outpouring of support and love. I don't say that, I'm not in a position to predict how long this will last, but I have a feeling that it will last longer than we think. Because what happened is Hamas became the new ISIS. It was labeled as the new ISIS by President Biden. And let me remind you what happened to ISIS. ISIS occupied a territory the size of Texas. The size of Texas. And once the United States decided to take ISIS out, it was out within 6 months. And so what President Biden committed himself yesterday to do is to tell us, as far as the United States is concerned, Hamas and ISIS are the same thing. And that's a very powerful statement, meaningful statement for Israeli decision makers. And again, thank you all for your support. We love you. And I'm personally deeply connected to your organization. And so I've known you for many, many years. Do you remember when I came to your house the first time? When you hosted Shimon Peres in 1996?
I remember you well. And
that was a memorable evening.
You brought something up. I know you need to leave, but you mentioned that we'll see you at the conference. And God willing, we will see you at the conference at the end of November in Denver. And this will now be a conference not just of education, it's going to be a conference of solidarity and education. And if the people who are on this Zoom want 3 days of what we just had with you, please register, because this will be a conference like you'll never attend again. Very, very important. So Ido, thank you for your time. And be safe. We love you. And we'll turn it over now to Russell.
So thank you, Saul. Thank you, Ambassador. And Yedidya, I don't know if he's still on, but I'll send my love. And I just want to everybody on the call, I think it's important when you hear Yedidya and you feel it's not just about hearing a story from an individual who was from the Gaza envelope. You're hearing from your family. We've had that all week, and we'll continue with these calls tomorrow. You can invite other people to join. We've had thousands of people. It's live stream also on Facebook, but you have that special connection that is different than anybody else, because what we are doing on the ground in Israel is not that we have to figure it out. We are talking to our family members. We're talking to people who we work with every day and we've worked with for years. And we're going to be there today. And it's like what Yedidya said, we're going to be there tomorrow and beyond. And I think that that's so important that you get the message across. For the campaign, which, by the way, is raised over $3.8 million, from smallest gifts to the largest gifts. And I think it shows the unity and the commitment that we have for the work that we're doing. I will tell you tomorrow, there was questions still about the North. We're going to have somebody from the IDF, and we'll have some more information, because there is very little that everybody has on substance about the North, and we'll have that. But we're also going to have stories about what just happened yesterday and today from the Lauder Employment Center, which we're using down in the Negev as a gathering area for thousands of pieces of clothing and supplies that we're going to be packaging, that we just welcomed. I think it's 35 families to our Hod Sharon, our Must North campus, who are coming and having a place to stay. Out of the thousands of people that we've evacuated, again, not because we had to make phone calls to find out, we were part of the conversation. And you have Tali there, who's been running the Situation Room in Israel, and it meets every single day, all day long. And it is there dealing with all of the issues, the request that's coming. And I just want to answer it for everybody on requests. We are focused. And we're getting a lot of requests for things like military and helmets and socks and whatever it is for the Army. I'm not going to answer that for the necessity or not. That's for others. But there's organizations like FIDF. That's what they are in business to do. And anybody that wants to give to the military operations within Israel should go to a very fine organization, FIDF. and they should give to FIDF, and it is not for us, and we're not going to be unfocused and be doing it for anything. It's not what we do. We do for civil defense. And Yedidya can tell you that just we bought the last 7 binoculars, nighttime binoculars, and just 2 days ago, it was used by the civil defense security team that helped save some lives. So we will do civil defense, but we're not doing military. And the military, go to FIDF. They're the great address, and you should give to it and there. But if you want to give, and I want to make this point constantly, we're doing a lot of work that is really God's work today. But the greatest battle that will be faced is the day after. Whether it's in 1 week or 1 month or 6 weeks, when our people are coming back, we've worked so hard to growing that entire Gaza envelope. From a community of Sderot that when we started working was 18,000, it's now 32,000 people, to 18,000 people in the Gaza envelope, the housing fund, hundreds of homes, thousands of people moved there. The difference, what Hamas wants to do is not only the annihilation of Israel totally, but what they tried to accomplish here was the annihilation of the people in the Gaza envelope. And we have an opportunity to do battle. We're not going to be given to the IDF, and we're not going to be given to tanks and the planes. But the day after, not the day after, we're going to continue doing it today. When we start building the new resilience center, or the community center in Halutza, or the new sports center in Shar HaNegev, if you want to see our enemy suffer, help us build those. Because when construction is going on things like a major sports center that's going to be a regional complex for everybody in the Gaza envelope to come, and there's going to be soccer players of all the different nationalities of Israel there, and there's going to be runners and sports activities, we won. We won. So if you want to really build and rebuild and be tough on our enemy, help us continue to build in the Gaza envelope. I want to thank everybody. Saul, in this building, I know across the country, the volunteers that are coming and calling and wanting to make phone calls, and thank you. And we have this going on everywhere. They're calling people who, thousands of names of people that we never could be able to cover. As I said, we're going to be having these calls tomorrow, and next week it's going to start again on Sunday and for the rest of the next week. But I'm going to tell you on Friday, same time, we're going to have a prayer for Israel Friday. So it's going to be a little different. It's going to be an opportunity. We're going to have people from the Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox from organizations across the United States and across the world joining us, songs, and a celebration for all of us, and also prayer for the state of Israel and the people of Israel. So join us the same time as we go forward. And I want to thank everybody for all of the work that they're doing. This is an organization that we are one, and we are strong, and we are united with the people in the land of Israel.
Thanks, Russell, and thanks to everybody participating. I apologize for not being able to get to all the dozens and dozens of questions. We'll try each day to get to as many as we can. That'll conclude today's Zoom. We'll see everybody. Invite your friends and family to join us tomorrow and each day. Thank you.